Targeted in this round of Crime Commission hearings are not the small-time operators, but the big leaguers, the major criminals, white-collar criminals, organized criminals, those who have so far passed through the legal system without being caught. Norfolk Senator Stanley Walker, a former chairman of the Crime Commission, spoke first. He said this is not the time to cut funding for law enforcement programs.
When money is tight and when unemployment is high and the economy is not so good, that's when you need everything going for you.
Policemen, politicians, and lawyers told the commission that Virginia is, unfortunately, keeping up with national statistics on soaring white-collar crime. Bank robberies, larcenies, extortion, embezzlement are all up. Drug trafficking is higher than ever, with no end in sight.
Marijuana is expected to pose a threat over the next 3 to 5 years, and its byproduct, hashish, along with Southeast and Southwest Asian heroin and quaaludes.
Things heated up when Norfolk Commonwealth Attorney Joseph Campbell took the stand. He said laws passed in Richmond are paralyzing law enforcement.
And every year I see a bunch of bills put in the General Assembly by defense attorneys that do nothing but help the defendant.
And he blasted Attorney General Marshall Coleman for the way he handled the bid rigging investigations.
He, in effect, granted immunity to several companies who were guilty of bid rigging and their employees solely to get a small settlement, a small percentage of what they had taken from the citizens of Virginia.
Any doubts as to the severity of the criminal problem here are put to rest when you realize that all of our local jails are filled almost to bursting. With that in mind, this commission will tomorrow take up the subject of whether or not a regional jail farm is possible in this area. In Norfolk, Howard Jaffe, The Daily News.
Witnesses told the Crime Commission that overcrowding leads to jail riots, violence, and suicides, and the problem is running rampant. Norfolk's jail has capacity for only 347 inmates, but is now holding 467. Chesapeake has more than 50 inmates than it can handle, and Suffolk's jail is filled to twice capacity.
I blame a lot of it for plea bargaining.
That's Suffolk Sheriff J. Irving Baines, who says many judges are sentencing inmates to time in local jails rather than the state pen. Meantime, alcohol-related crime is another major factor, as 25 to 33% of the inmates are incarcerated for public drunkenness or driving while drinking. While most sheriffs say a regional facility for nonviolent inmates will help, Norfolk Mayor Vincent Thomas has his doubts about the project getting off the ground.
Everybody gets up and says, we're all for regionalism and we ought to share these prisoners. And so what I want to ask is, if we're all for regional cooperation, how do we get going on it?
And that precisely is the problem. If the recent water crisis can be used as a demonstrable example of how well the cities can work together, the chances of seeing a regional jail in the near future are extremely dim. Mike Deason, The Daily News.